Hello everyone and welcome back to I Am My Reviews, and thank you for your patience. It has been very quiet on the channel for the last 10 days or so because I have not been very well at all. I'm still not 100%, but I am very much nearer to the end than I am the beginning, and I'm also getting a little bit bored just sitting around the house doing absolutely nothing. There's only so many episodes of The Simpsons you can rewatch, but I have been keeping up with the movies where I can, so let's have a good and proper catch up, shall we? Starting with Furiosa. Now, before I dive into Furiosa, I should probably tell you how I feel about the Mad Max franchise in general and its predecessor in Fury Road. I haven't actually seen all of the Mad Max movies. Shocker, I know. And the ones I have seen I saw completely out of order. It couldn't have been a more scatterbrained approach to trying to understand this world. So as you can imagine, I don't really understand this world. I just switch my brain off and just enjoy it for what it is. But how does Furiosa work? Well, there are plenty of positives. The biggest one for me, I thought, was Chris Hemsworth. The poster and the trailer really worried me because every time I looked at him, I couldn't see anything other than Dr. Robotnik. But actually, he's great here. He's a lot of fun. He's quite an interesting character. I like his charisma. He's interesting. I think some of the action is really good. It certainly keeps you invested in the story. The music's pretty good at times. But I must be honest, this all just felt like a much lazier version of Fury Road, at least to me. I thought the CGI was really noticeable. What I do like about Fury Road is the practicality of it all, but that is sadly quite stripped back here, and it's very noticeable, and the CGI is not that visually pleasing. Some of the scenes and the editing is sped up very awkwardly. I don't know, it's just a consistent thing with this movie that for me, I didn't find it that visually pleasing. In fact, I thought it was kind of ugly at times. I can't say I really cared for the story. I mean, I was definitely invested and I was interested. I liked these characters and I was intrigued to see where it was going, but it's told in such a sloppy, messy, poorly paced fashion that I could take it or leave it, to be honest with you. I have absolutely zero need or rush or desire to go back and experience this again. And personally, I don't see this one aging anywhere near as well as Fury Road did. So Furiosa gets a 7 out of 10. Next up was Sting, and holy shit was this bad. This is generic, it's lazily written, the dialogue is hilarious, the characters are absolutely unbelievable, nobody anywhere acts like these people. The humour is awkward, as is the general tone of the film. There is zero scare factor despite clearly trying to play up to those horror elements. But nope, they're going to cut away from every scare and every kill. They did absolutely nothing with the music or the sound design. They couldn't even be asked to really utilise the creature that well. You never see it, and it's not a matter of them playing up the, oh, you're more scared of what you don't know. No, not at all. It's because they're cheap as shit. When you do see glimpses of this monster, it very clearly looks like a teddy bear spider stuck on a remote control car. That's the level of useless that we are at today, people. I can't even say it's so bad it's good. That final act for me was genuinely just a matter of waiting for this thing to finish. I was on very strong medication that probably would have made me a bit delirious, maybe even a little bit lighter on the film. No, I still thought it was absolute horseshit. And that baffles me because arachnophobia is probably the biggest phobia there is. It's quite easy to scare somebody with a spider. It's almost like a surefire bet. My sister was always creeped out by that scene in Arachnophobia where the spider crawls up the guy's body towards his face. And yet I guarantee my sister could watch Sting and I doubt it would even raise her pulse. This movie didn't just fall over its own shoelaces, it did it at full speed and landed crash bang wallop on its own face. Watch Eight-Legged Freaks instead. That's no masterpiece, but it's way more fun than this. Sting gets a 1 out of 10. Next up was Atlas. I went into Atlas with a very low bar, having read its Rotten Tomato scores, and maybe it was the extremely powerful medication I was on, but I didn't mind it. Don't get me wrong, it has got a lot of problems. But it was nowhere near as bad as those scores led me to believe. It's generic as hell, it's copying storylines from several far better sci-fi movies, and it never even gets remotely close to exploring anything of depth within these ideas. It may ask the same questions as A Ghost in the Shell about what life is exactly, but instead of being philosophical about it, it just blurts out the most basic and cutesy answer possible. It thinks and we're friends, so it's alive. Wowsies. There's a little bit of Avatar in here. There's a little bit of Blade Runner. But amounting it together didn't make it greater than the sum of its parts. It is just parts that are welded together to make a much less focused and diminished overall project. It's also way too reliant on the CGI, and it's not always that convincing. The casting is quite weird. Nobody does a bad job, they just don't necessarily feel like the right actor for the role. I haven't seen J-Lo headline a movie since that trashy Boy Next Door film from the early 2000s. My brain couldn't help but struggle to buy into her here, despite being generally fine in her performance. Sometimes I'd even go as far as saying it was refreshing. Certainly more refreshing than seeing a Tom Holland or a Timothée Chalamet do it for the 100th time in the last 2 years. The action is quite poor. They do hide a lot of it with speedy transitions or poor lighting. They try to give you some fun with the odd gruesome kill here and there, but it's just not enough, and constantly cutting to J-Lo getting thrown around and grunting was quite funny. Yeah! But I think the biggest praise that I can give this film is the relationship between J-Lo and her robot protector Smith. It wasn't perfect, but they do manage to build a genuine and enjoyable rapport that managed to give this movie a lifeline that the audience could hold on to. I'm going to give Atlas a 4 out of 10. Next up is my favourite movie on this list, Taro. Taro was awful, but my god did I love it. I don't think it quite reaches the realms of being so bad that it's good, but my god is it close. I had a lot of fun at this movie's expense. Guess the plot, people. That's right, a group of drunken, horny teenagers stay at a haunted house, shocker, and they find some spooky tarot cards, and despite being well aware of the implications and making that abundantly clear to the audience that they know they shouldn't be doing this, they go ahead and do it. Yay! And after having their spooky readings done, you guessed it, they now get killed off one by one in the fashion of their spooky reading. So it's Final Destination, Truth or Dare, The Ring, Happy Death Day. You know, literally any one of those gotta stop death movies, but this time with Pokemon cards. The editing is horrible. Some of the worst I've seen this year by far. They do these very odd and bizarre jump cut movements that just never quite look right on the eye. I think they're hoping it's going to get a scare out of you. It doesn't. The soundtrack is wild and very oddly placed at times. Straight after a character meets its brutal end, it will just jump into some sort of Post Malone Sunflower shit. It's hilarious, and you will get whiplash with how tonally unbalanced this film is. Taro is so bad at times that I started to wonder if it was an intentional troll movie. Like the real victims are us, the audience, because we paid to watch it and expected something competent and logical, and yet here we are. But I'm not convinced. I think this is just a very bad, generic as hell script that has had the pages ripped out of it. It's had total rewrites, utter thematic and stylish makeovers, with residue of each change and idea all still here, bleeding and blending into one hot mess. It's the only way I can make sense of these breakneck changes in decisions every other scene. We go from whimsical pop star musical choices being blended with bringing back the horror icon trope, all along with the quiet bangs of an Insidious or a Conjuring movie along the way. You can tell that this movie was made by people in suits and ties, panicking and just word vomiting ideas out into the open and just moulding them in together to make some sort of form of clay. And that is what Taro is. It's just horror word vomit. If you do watch this movie, absolutely do it with friends and alcohol. You'll thank me later. You may have guessed it, but Taro gets a 1 out of 10. Next up is Boy Kills World. I found this one to be a little bit of a mixed bag. It has a great lively energy in its pacing and its transitions, with some sensational camera work and choreography in its action scenes. It moves like a carefree, blood-fueled rock'em sock'em video game, and it knows exactly what it is. It's so comic booky and eccentric with its style that I stopped to Google whether it was based on a pre-existing comic. But no. It's great fun that's full of memorable scenes, one with a cheese grater in particular that really put a smile on my face. But I can't ignore the fact that there's just some odd choices throughout the film, a big one being the casting. I love Bill Skarsgård, but making him a mute with the voice narration of the video store guy from Family Guy, that's just a weird and jarring choice that never connected for me. It's also just a huge waste of Bill Skarsgård's acting ability. I'm not sure he was the guy for this role, but he does fine enough. It's also just way too predictable. You know exactly where it's going and how it's going to get there almost immediately out the gates. And those pulled punches and surprises unfortunately never managed to pull the rug out from under my feet. In fact, I'd say it had the opposite effect, leaving me with a very annoyed roll of the eye and going, yep, how predictable. But considering I could watch it from the comfort of my home and it's a film that knows exactly what it is and it's having some genuinely good fun, I'm not mad at it. Boy Kills World gets a 6 out of 10. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and please do hit the comment section as well. Have you seen any of the movies we've discussed today? Let me know what you think about them in the comment section below. And of course, if you haven't had enough of this crazy ginger, we can always click on these suggested videos right here and get yourself lost in an IMO wormhole. But if not, take care, and I look forward to seeing you on the next review.